to bring out the highlights in our character's hair here. Now I've gone ahead and moved all of her highlights up to this hair highlights layer here, and if you want to explore that layer and kind of look at some of the shapes that I've ended up with, feel free. I may still yet add a few more to these shapes just to kind of bring out some of these areas maybe where there aren't enough details in the hair showing through. But I want to go ahead and take a moment to show you how you can create some really thin strand-like hair, sort of like these over here, and maybe even thinner, to kind of mimic some of these more wispy hairs like we pointed out in the previous lesson. So what I've got here on my hair layer is I've got a shape something like this right here. Now this is a really simple shape, just consists of 3 anchor points, and it's very, very thin, but we're actually going to use one of the tools here in our tool panel to actually come in and modify this shape. So let me zoom out a little bit. I want to make some copies of this. We'll just drag some copies by alt dragging. And let's go ahead and focus on this shape right here. So we'll zoom in on that, and I'm going to come over here in my tool panel underneath our width tool, and we used the wrinkle tool in this tool set in a previous lesson, but now I'm going to go ahead and go for this warp tool. Now the warp tool is pretty cool. Similar to the wrinkle tool, you can access the options for the warp tool by double clicking on it. Now you can see here we have both height, width, angle, intensity, we have pin pressure options, detail, simplify, some things like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with the default settings here, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what happens when we hold down the Alt key and drag this brush. You can see I have sort of a brush preview. That's the size I'm using. What if I wanted to use this tool at a bigger size without having to bring up those options? Well, if we hold down the Alt button, we can actually squish the tip of our brush shape. Just like so. We can drag to the right and to the left, and it's going to get wider and narrower, and we can drag up and down, and it's going to squish it from the top and the bottom here. So I'm going to go ahead and get that back to about a circle here. And let's go ahead and actually hold down the Alt key, and now I'm going to add the Shift key to that, and again drag. Let's see what happens now. The brush tip increases and decreases uniformly here. So maybe I wanted a larger brush tip, something like that. Now I'm just going to come over with this warp tool, and I'm just going to simply brush at this shape that we've created here. I'm just going to kind of simply come in and brush at it kind of randomly. You can kind of see the effect that this is having on our shape. It's thinning it up a little bit. We're just kind of nudging that around. It's actually creating anchor points, and based on how we push this shape. So if we wanted to come in here and really create kind of a wavy strand of hair, I'd probably come in and do it something like this. Now you notice here that we've got some very thick areas and some very thin areas here in our shape. So this would probably be a good opportunity to go ahead and shrink our brush tip down and zoom in on that a little bit and maybe clean that up just a little bit. So I'm going to come in here and just kind of massage this around. So we'll just kind of try and clean that up just a little bit here. Now we can always switch over to our pencil tool and use the smooth tool, or we can just grab the smooth tool from our toolbox. I usually go to the pencil tool just to grab that, just because I can hold Alt from that, and I know that's the keyboard shortcut in to get to the pencil tool. So we'll come in here and start smoothing this out a little bit, just like so. And you can see we're getting a really nice strand of hair here. So rather than actually trying to draw that with our pen tool or even our pencil tool or something like that, we've now created this nice shape that we can drag over, and we can kind of integrate that into the mass that is our hair. So we'll go ahead and drag that over here like so. It's kind of rotated into place here. The beautiful thing is that this is black, so I don't have to worry about trying to blend it in. We can always just use either the Shape Builder tool or the Pathfinder panel and combine this with the main body of hair at a later point if we really want to. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that in sort of like that, and I'll probably end up creating a few more strands of hair in a very similar fashion, but you can see how once we layer those into some of these areas, it's really going to add some nice contrast to the body of hair that we've got going here. Now we spent a lot of time working on the hair and on the face and the chest, but we've kind of neglected sort of the shirt area as well as the pants here. So I tell you what, we've also neglected this hand right here, here, but I'm not going to color that any different than I did with the other skin tones here. So I'll probably go ahead and do that between lessons just so we're not repeating information. And in the next lesson, when we pick up, what I want to do is I want to shift our focus to the shirt our model is wearing. Now, if we look here at the photograph, you can see here some really nice shadows. And what I'd like to do is maybe just pull out some of those shadow areas and let the shadows define this white shirt. So again, in the next lesson, we'll continue on where we're leaving off here, and we'll shift our focus to our model's shirt.